my first step into marketing was actually after business school, when I took over marketing and sales for a startup in Atlanta. And this was before all of the current marketing stuff was going on. This was like Google level stuff. And I took that into selling and marketing for larger companies like Merck Pharmaceuticals, Aetna Health Insurance. We got into more one-on-one selling with clients. And then when I stepped out and started working for myself, that's really where marketing became the most important. And I've actually studied it over the last 5+ years to understand how to be successful, because like we said in the first module, it's moving fast. And if you don't really understand what's going on in any given moment, you're going to miss the next moment too. So you have to stay with the current trends and what's going on. That doesn't mean you follow them exactly, but you need to understand what they're doing so that you can understand the rules.
Sure. So in your mind, I've heard you talk a lot about content, and you are a content creator yourself. What are the biggest mistakes, or what is the biggest mistake you see founders make when it comes to content creation?
I mean, I think the reality is everybody makes them, because you get really, really close to whatever content you're creating and you think it's right. It's really easy to just go, well, what I've created is perfect. And the reality is most people either make it too complicated, they have a terrible hook, and they lose their avatar or their customer. And most of them think, well, shoot, I'm creating this great content that teaches you all of this really, really good stuff over the next 60, 90, 2 minutes, whatever it ends up looking like. But if you lose your customer in the first 1.5 seconds, who cares how good your content was later on? One of the biggest challenges that anybody who's creating content encounters is hooking the customer to stick around and listen to what you have to say or show.
Define hook for everyone. What does hook technically mean?
It's more of getting attention and holding attention.
Yeah.
Let's think about it with like your child, okay? Your child is playing video games and you want your child to go to bed. And you're like, hey, it's time to go to bed. And he's like not even paying attention to whatever you're saying. Hey, it's 9 o'clock, time to go to bed. And if you can't get his attention, he's going to sit there and play video games until 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you can't get their attention, they're not going to do what you want them to do next or learn what you want them to learn next. Maybe in the video game experience, it's getting their attention by pulling the plug or standing in front of them or waving or saying something that's like 2 more minutes or you're not playing tomorrow. Whatever it ends up being, then all of a sudden you have their attention. Now you can tell them what is important now. It's like, okay, now I'm listening, time to go to bed. Okay, I'll get up and do my call to action of what's actually going on. So think about that in the same way when you're talking to someone who is doing this.
Yeah, but I've started even noticing it in the lines of the grocery store. You know,
Yep.
I'm a bit of a people watcher, and I think marketers become that, right?
For sure.
You're, part of it is trying to decipher what motivates people to do anything.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to see, you know, they'll scroll, adults, kids, in between,
Everyone.
and what they pause on for a little while, and what they choose to watch the end of. And it's also very interesting because the moment it becomes a brand, I feel like people give far less leeway to brands than they would.
Yeah, I agree.
Than they would a normal content creator.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what makes a good hook in your mind and how brands can use that.
You know, the funny thing is we all assume that people don't want to build a relationship with a brand. We make that assumption, which honestly is false. Think about your relationship with Nike.
Right.
You know, you're from Portland, you know, so like if you see something from Nike, you're like, oh, I'll watch that. So you have a relationship with them. We all assume that it has to be something funny, stupid, like what does really well? Fail videos. You have to ask yourself, how do I take the concept of a fail video and turn it into the concept with my brand? There was one thing that I watched. I was actually on a meeting yesterday. They created a video for a police department, and it was a PSA about not drinking and driving. Okay. You would think that this would be the most boring, least watched video in the history of this, because most people go, all right, well, let's get in front of a camera and say, don't drink and drive. And we know when you're drunk, if you get pulled over or if we are driving, we got you. That would be a scroll. Right. The hook with this specific person, they had their camera go up, gave some motion, and they said, here is the best place to get drunk at 10 a.m. And then they showed the police department. They're like, wait, huh? Okay, you got me. Tell me more about that. And then they went on to show that they train police officers to identify when somebody is drunk by bringing people in and getting them drunk and then taking them through the test. Okay. And then at the very end, they're like, hey, we know if you're drinking, so don't drink and drive, man. That was an incredibly successful video for a city's police department that went viral. That's just an example of what a business could potentially do and be really, really successful, because they're building a relationship. They're showing something. They're saying something that's a little off the wall. Get drunk at 10 a.m. Police department. Wait a second. What am I watching here? Now you got their attention and they're going to watch it. Now you think about that from the same perspective of a spa. You could take something similar to that and think about what is kind of a crazy statement that you can make.
I would argue
show
that,
or
maybe an unexpected statement.
Crazy, unexpected, something that's going to make someone pause and go, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know, Buddy the Elf walking into your spa is actually a really good visual hook. Like I've seen other people do these where it's like, I'm going to go in and visit Hand and Stone. And then they cut to straight walking in the door and then everyone's waving at them as they go in. And you know, that's all they really needed to see. You've got their attention by giving them some sort of a visual.
Right.
You're giving them motion, and then you're giving something entertaining of why they should go. Hey, they're having a sale here. Oh my gosh.
Well, and in that particular case, you're using content to show potential customers, what the experience would be like. So literally, the camera is experiencing what a new customer would experience, right? So you've made that introduction. There's not as big of a barrier to entry in their mind to go and visit that place. You sort of primed it in that example.
You can even take it to the next level and go in and say, here's Brendan, the owner. You could even go in and say, hey, massages are evolving. Now look at these AI machines that are massaging bodies. And this is just a really cool thing, because then that would be your top of funnel where you're up at the very top going, look at the evolution of something. And they look at that and go, wait, huh? Now, you see a machine can massage a body, like that. Those kinds of things get attention and go get somebody to go, wait, what am I looking at? And then they stay.
So EJ, if I'm a founder and I hear what we've been talking about, how do I start?
There's lots of different types of content. And so we'll just talk about a few of them, but you can put this into any AI and go, what types of content fit for me? But here are the biggest things. So you want to teach something, tips, tricks, making something work. Maybe it's a story, maybe it's just information. I'll even use some just examples of what I've seen in the past. Someone who has beaten cancer, and they want to teach them about what they did to beat cancer. And they have, again, still that got their attention. I beat cancer. Here's how I did it. Here's how you can do it too. The next thing is showing something. Let's say you sell drones. If you just come in and say, well, this drone can stay up for 15 minutes and do all these different things, you're going to lose everybody. But if you show the drone dropping off of a cliff and flying around and doing all this crazy stuff and coming back to the owner and whatever it may be, you're showing them what experience they might have if they are using that kind of drone.
So can I share a quick example that just came to mind? I am a big German car aficionado. You know, my dad had them growing up, and I just love the way they look and feel. And if I'm being honest, part of my identity is probably tied to that as much. So I'm loyal. Yeah. I have a 14-year-old son who lives and breathes Ford and Chevy trucks.
Good man.
Old Ford and Chevy trucks.
Okay.
And it's because he found some YouTube videos from the 80s where they're not talking about how fast the thing goes or how much weight you can haul with your boat or the payload in the bed. Yeah. They're dropping these things out of airplanes and they're landing and going. Yeah, they're jumping them off of jumps.
Yeah.
And so he can never logically tell me how a Ford truck is better than a Porsche. He just talks about the commercials that he saw because they showed him exactly what it could do.
And that connects with probably a lot with that age group, but also all of us.
Right.
You probably like watching BMW videos of one flying down the road on the Autobahn or something like that. But that's why that's a very good style of video that connects with a certain type of people. But you have to remember that not everybody connects with the same style of video. So you have to do different types of content or you'll bore your audience. They'll either quit following you or they'll just see your face and they'll be flipping. They're like, I don't want to look at this guy anymore because all he does is, show me cars falling out of planes.
Right.
The last one is proving something. And so since we've talked about trucks a little bit, this could be a really good example of a Chevy or a Ford truck being able to haul X amount of tons by dropping rocks into the back of it. Prove that, you know, something that shows that if someone has your service at a spa, they come out feeling relaxed and ready for the rest of their week. But you can do this through lots of different ways. I mean, it can be showing, can be throwing out statistics. It can be, but don't make it boring. Like if you make it boring, you're already losing them, because you have to hook them and keep them, or they will still leave, and then your content still will drop flat.
So what's the difference here, just to clarify, between show and prove? Because they do sound similar.
That's a really good question, and I don't know that I have a perfect answer for that, but show is probably look at my watch and what it can do.
Yeah.
Prove is probably look at my watch and the battery life really does last 2 days. You know, so that's probably the slight differentiation. It's showing that you can actually do what you say you can do.
So if I could share one example that just came to mind, I believe it was in the early 2000s, one of the automakers, I think it was Lexus, but while everyone else was proving that their cars could round the corner at this speed and handle on the ice, right? That was what they were promoting. That was their content. And Lexus, I believe, just showed the tachometer and the shifter and had the sounds, right? So Lexus was showing, and the other ones were proving.
Yeah, I think that's a really good. That's a really good example. Just to kind of keeping it clean.
Yeah.
And honestly, the funny thing is, if you're being a little different, so they're doing the same thing but they're different. Their ads probably hooked better because someone is seeing someone shifting, because that's motion, and they're feeling the tension of like, oh yeah, now I've got to, I mean, nobody drives a manual anymore, but like I got to push in the clutch and look at it take off, versus just watching it go around a corner. So which one is more exciting? It's like, well, they're actually showing what I would do, and I feel what you are doing and feel like I could be in your position. This type of content, like people have written books on it. So doing this in like 5 minutes is like, hey, go and do this and you'll be fine. It's like, well, go and do this and understand this is what you're doing. Now go study it a little bit deeper.
So is it fair to say then, when creating content, and we'll get into this in the course, you should at the very least teach or show or prove, and ideally do all of them?
Yeah, generally, you should. Here's a strategy that you can do, because it's really easy to go watch a whole bunch of videos. Like I call it doing research when I'm laying there in bed.
Nice. Yeah.
Like what are people doing? I don't really doom scroll. I'm actually doom researching when I'm going through the phone. There is a style, and I talked about it in the module for the course. It's this concept of 5, 6, 30. So come up with, I believe it's 5 topics, create 6 videos per topic, and now you have 30 videos that you will post 1 per day, and then you see what works and what doesn't. It's this whole concept of just pushing you to test.
Right.
And the cool thing about something like that is like, well, here's the 5 different types of content that I think might work. Teaching, showing, just purely visual stuff.
Right.
Maybe it's a joke that you're always telling. This is where it kind of gets interesting as a business, is you could get up there and say a daily joke, a daily dad joke, and it still would pull people into your business, even though it has nothing. Maybe you have spa jokes that you can say. It just keeps
those
people
don't exist.
You know, but there are dad jokes that you could tell, and you'd be like, here's my 10-second dad joke, and then it's you reacting, or your kids laughing, or your kids making fun of you for telling a dad joke. You know, these are all sorts of things that kind of pull them all together, and you want to have a collection of content that keeps people continually interested in what you have to say and pulls them into you as a human versus a business.
Any marketer who tells you up front what's going to happen and how is selling you a lie, because real marketing is taking educated guesses, failing fast and iterating, and then doubling down on what works and throwing away what doesn't. So is it fair to say that within this module, because if I'm hearing this as a founder, it seems like a lot, and it seems like it's all coming at me, but we will go through, here is a framework and here's a plan that you can follow and iterate on. We
have a booklet that they can kind of go through step by step that helps them to break it down into pieces. I never want anyone to feel overwhelmed with what's going on, but if I were to tell you that this is easy, then I'm also lying to you, because you have to go through the steps. Jordan didn't become Jordan because he just shot a couple of baskets and now he can fly. Like, he put in more than 10,000 hours to be better. I mean, Zuckerberg went out and built stuff when he was a teenager that he then was ready to go. Bill Gates was breaking into the IBM lab. You have to go through the process. And if you want to just start with like, you know what, I'm going to just do teaching videos, that's fine. Just start something. Just do something. Just don't make it too long, too complex, and make it entertaining enough that people you'll get their attention, you hang on to them, and they want to continue to learn from you. This one woman teaches about health using like almost like a tuning fork and putting it on your chest. And when you see it, you're like, what in the world are you talking about here? But she's like a holistic healing person, and she's talking about holistic healing. But this tuning fork is, who cares that it's 440?
Yeah.
But you're doing something weird that I don't understand that can kind of come in and make it work in that way that changes my life. I will tell you that it is incredibly frustrating to go in and see yourself fail. None of us want to fail, but you have to try. And when you see that something didn't work, iterate. Understand why, or pieces of it. We could do a whole lecture series on how to use Instagram to understand where your video failed or your piece of content failed. But that's kind of the idea. That's what's so crazy about today is you can see all of the data on your content, all of it. When people dropped off, when people liked, when people shared it with somebody, and you can see it all going on, almost like not necessarily in real time, but it's kind of in real time, where you can say, well, look, I lost 50% of my viewers in the first 3 seconds.
I would also interject with, if you're just starting out, there's many attributes and qualities of you as a founder and of your company.
Yeah.
And until you expose those to the world, you're not going to know what's going to resonate with which audience.
Exactly.
And I would argue there's probably a few of those qualities that resonate most. And that's what once you figure that out, you roll with those.
You also can be thinking about this as a salesperson, where you're creating a funnel, and your top of funnel content doesn't look like your bottom of funnel content. Your top of funnel content is telling a dad joke. Your bottom of funnel is saying, sign up for a monthly spa subscription. If you just talk about the bottom of funnel and signing up, people will stop watching you. But if you give them a variety of stuff of, showing them something and then teaching them something and then having some sort of call to action in the end, you're building a relationship. And that's probably where most founders make the biggest mistake. An example, it's like going out on one date and then asking them to marry you. Instead, it should be you go through a relationship building of months, years, whatever, to get to the point where you want somebody to actually have a transaction or marry you in that specific instance.